Did you know turning banana peels, coffee grounds, and old newspapers into garden gold can happen right in a tiny apartment, a cozy senior home, or even a backyard the size of a doormat? Composting isn't just for country folks with big gardens. It's for everyone. The process is easier and more rewarding than you think. And the best part? You don't need fancy tools or tons of space. Stick around, because one of these 5 simple composting methods might be just the right fit for your home. Meet Grandpa Lee, retired, soft-spoken, and the proud keeper of a dozen thriving potted plants in his tiny apartment balcony. For years, he thought composting was too messy, too smelly, and definitely not something you could pull off without a backyard. Leave that to the farmers, he'd say with a chuckle. But that changed a few years ago, not long after he retired. With more time on his hands and a growing love for his leafy companions, Grandpa Lee gave composting a second look. He started small: banana peels, old coffee grounds, torn up newspapers. No big bins, no fancy tools, just a little container tucked beside the window. And to his surprise, it worked beautifully. Now, he calls composting his secret to youthful tomatoes and stress relief. Says it keeps his hands busy, his mind clear, and his plants glowing like they're on vacation. And the best part? No bad smells, no mess. Just a simple, calming routine that brings life full circle, from scraps to soil to joy. If Grandpa Lee can do it in a space no bigger than a hallway closet, so can you. Stick with us, because coming up, we'll show you 5 easy composting methods that work anywhere. One of them might just change how you see food scraps forever. Method 1. Kitchen counter composting. Let's start simple, right where most food scraps are born, the kitchen. You don't need a backyard, a garden, or even a balcony to get started with composting. If you've got a bit of counter space, a small bin, and a little curiosity, you're halfway there. Kitchen counter composting is perfect for apartments, senior homes, or anyone without outdoor space. All you need is a small bin with a lid, something about the size of a bread box, and a compostable bag to line it. For extra peace of mind, you can add a charcoal filter to the lid to keep any potential smells locked away. What goes in? Think of the natural leftovers from your everyday cooking: banana and orange peels, coffee grounds, tea bags unbleached, crushed eggshells, vegetable scraps like carrot ends or onion skins. This method is especially helpful if you cook often or enjoy fresh fruits and veggies. Every time you prep a meal, you're creating potential compost gold. Pro tip: if you're nervous about smells or pests, here's Grandpa Lee's favorite trick. Store your scraps in a compost bag or container in the freezer. No smell, no mess, and when it's full, just transfer it to a drop-off site, compost service, or your outdoor compost bin if you have one later. He jokes that the only downside is remembering which frozen bag is soup and which one is old spinach. Why it works? It builds the habit. When your compost bin is right in sight, beside the sink or near the trash, it becomes second nature. You'll be amazed at how much waste doesn't go to the landfill anymore. It's a small step with a surprisingly powerful impact. And if you're wondering, but where do I take it once it's full? Many cities offer compost drop-off programs at farmers markets or community gardens. Some even have curbside pickup. Have you ever tried collecting your kitchen scraps before? What's your number 1 composting worry? The smell, the bugs, the space? Tell us in the comments. We're creating a composting community one story at a time. Method 2. Balcony or bucket composting. This next method is for those who have just a little more room to work with, maybe a small balcony, a sunny porch, or even a bright corner near a window. If that's you, bucket composting might be the perfect fit. This is actually the method Grandpa Lee graduated to after he saw how well his kitchen composting went. I figured, he said, if I can grow tomatoes in a pot, I can grow compost in a bucket. And he was right. Here's what you'll need: a 5-gallon bucket, like the kind from a hardware store, a lid to keep moisture in and pests out, some small holes drilled in the bottom and sides for airflow, a little spot with warmth and light. Sun is great, but not required. How it works: start by adding your greens, fruit and veggie scraps, coffee grounds, even use tea bags. Then layer with your browns, shredded newspaper, dry leaves, cardboard bits, or even paper towels, as long as they're not greasy. Think of it like making a lasagna: green, brown, green, brown. Once a week, grab a sturdy stick or long spoon and give it a little stir. Just mix things up so air can flow and microbes can work their magic. Then close the lid and let nature take over. Why it's great for seniors or small spaces. You control what goes in and how it smells. You don't need a garden or a backyard. It's portable, lightweight, and easy to tuck in a corner. It feels more hands-on, like a gentle hobby with big rewards. Grandpa Lee says he stirs his bucket every Sunday morning, like a good pot of stew. And when the compost is ready, dark, crumbly, and earthy smelling, he mixes it into the soil of his potted plants. They perk up like they've been to the spa, he laughs. Extra tip: if your compost seems too wet, just add more browns. If it's too dry, sprinkle a bit of water. Compost is forgiving and quiet. It works slowly, without much fuss. Would you try a compost bucket on your porch or balcony? Or do you prefer something even simpler, like the kitchen counter bin? We'd love to hear what fits your lifestyle best. Share in the comments. Your setup might inspire someone else to get started too. Method 3. Worm bin, vermicomposting, indoors. Now, this one might sound a little wild at first. Worms in your kitchen. Stay with me. I know it might trigger the ick reflex at first, but trust me, vermicomposting is cleaner, quieter, and less smelly than you'd ever expect. In fact, Grandpa Lee used to say, "Worms in the kitchen? No thank you." But once he gave it a try, he was hooked. Now he calls them his tiny gardeners in tuxedos, always working, never complaining. So what is vermicomposting? It's the art of composting with red wigglers, a special kind of worm that loves fruit and veggie scraps. These little workers eat your leftovers and turn them into something incredible. Worm castings, aka black gold, a rich, crumbly fertilizer that's amazing for garden pots, flowers, or houseplants. Here's what you need to get started. A plastic bin or storage box with a lid, shoebox sized or larger. A few small holes for air. Damp bedding, like shredded newspaper, cardboard, or coconut coir. A quiet, dark spot, like under the sink, in a cabinet or laundry room. And of course, a handful of red wigglers. You can order them online or find them at a garden center. What do you feed them? The same things you'd put in your kitchen compost: fruit peels, veggie scraps, coffee grounds, tea bags, crushed eggshells. Just no meat, dairy, or oily foods. Worms are health-conscious little creatures. Why it works? No smell when done right. No mess. The worms stay put and mind their business. The whole system is compact, contained, and super low maintenance. It turns everyday scraps into a superfood for your plants. Grandpa Lee swears by it. My peace lilies haven't stopped blooming since I started using worm castings, he says proudly. He even named his bin the Worm Cafe. It's tucked quietly under the sink, doing its thing, and unless he tells you, you'd never know it was there. Still feeling unsure? That's totally okay. Not everyone's ready for a worm bin on day one. But if you're curious, this method is worth a second look. For many, it becomes a peaceful and surprisingly fun little project. Be honest, could you live with worms in your kitchen? Or does that give you the heebie-jeebies? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what excites you and what totally freaks you out. You might be surprised. How many people went from "no way" to "why didn't I start sooner"? Method 4. Backyard bin or pile. If you're one of the lucky ones with a bit of outdoor space, maybe a backyard, a garden bed, or even a tucked-away corner, then this next method is a beautiful way to let nature take the lead. It's simple, soothing, and surprisingly low effort. The backyard compost bin or pile. This is the method Grandpa Lee remembers from his childhood. "We didn't call it composting back then," he laughs. "We just tossed scraps behind the shed and watched the chickens go crazy." Today, he's brought that old-school wisdom back, right into his little shared courtyard. How to get started? You don't need anything fancy. A basic bin with air holes, a DIY wooden crate, or even a small pile in a shady corner will do the job. Some people even use repurposed trash cans or barrels. The key is to give your scraps a space to breathe, blend, and break down naturally. What goes in? Yard clippings like grass, dead leaves, or small branches. Kitchen scraps like fruit and veggie peels, eggshells, coffee grounds. Browns like shredded newspaper, cardboard, or paper towels. The secret is balance. Mix your greens, wet, fresh stuff, with browns, dry, carbon-rich material in alternating layers. Think of it as giving your pile a healthy compost diet. How to maintain it? Give it a stir now and then with a pitchfork, stick, or shovel. Let rainwater keep it moist, or sprinkle with water if it gets too dry. Cover it with a lid or tarp if you live in a very rainy or hot climate. And then let it be. Nature knows exactly what to do. In a few months, that pile becomes dark, crumbly compost that smells like rich forest soil. It's pure magic. And if you've got a garden, some flower beds, or even just a few pots, your plants will thank you for it tenfold. Why it works? Zero tech, zero stress. Lets you reuse yard and kitchen waste effortlessly. Gives back to the soil right where you are. It's a slow, grounding routine, like baking bread or tending roses. Grandpa Lee calls it the heartbeat of the yard. It's where the old becomes new, where yesterday's scraps feed tomorrow's blooms. What's your favorite compost ingredient from the garden? Dry leaves? Fresh grass? Crushed eggshells? Let us know in the comments. And feel free to share a compost tip or two from your own backyard. We're building a garden-minded community, one story and one scoop at a time. Method 5. Community or shared composting. Not everyone wants to stir a bucket or keep worms under the sink, and that's perfectly okay. Composting doesn't have to be a solo project. That's where community or shared composting comes in, a beautiful option for seniors who want to make a difference without doing all the heavy lifting. This is the method Grandpa Lee's neighbor, Miss Evelyn, swears by. I love the garden, she says, but I love my clean kitchen more. So every Saturday, she gathers her food scraps, apple cores, eggshells, coffee grounds, and walks them to the neighborhood compost drop-off bin at the community garden. No mess, no stress, and a warm hello from the garden club. Here's how it works. You collect your scraps at home in a small kitchen bin or compostable bag. Then, once or twice a week, you drop them off at a community compost bin. Or, in some cities, the compost service picks them up right from your doorstep. The composting is done by trained volunteers, garden clubs, city workers, or local farms. Later, that finished compost is used to grow vegetables, flowers, or beautify the neighborhood. What goes in? Most community programs take the basics: fruit and veggie scraps, coffee grounds and filters, tea bags, crushed eggshells. In some cases, even compostable packaging. Check local guidelines. This method is ideal for people who don't have outdoor space, can't manage stirring or turning a compost pile, prefer simplicity and cleanliness, want to connect with others and feel part of a greener cause. Why it matters? Grandpa Lee says Miss Evelyn's weekly trip has become more than just a routine. It's her Saturday morning social, a chance to say hi to neighbors, share garden tips, and feel like she's part of something bigger. Composting becomes less about dirt and more about connection with the earth and each other. And here's a beautiful truth. Even if you can't compost at home, your scraps still have value. When added to a community pile, they become part of a larger story, one that feeds gardens, supports pollinators, and keeps waste out of landfills. Getting started. Check with your local farmer's market, church, library, or garden club. Look online for compost drop-off locations or city-run programs. Or, if none exist, you could be the spark. Ask your church, senior center, or local school to consider starting one. You don't need to run it. Just asking the question might get the compost rolling. Does your neighborhood offer compost pickup or drop-off? Or could you ask your local church, school, or garden club to help start one? Share your ideas below. Someone in your area might be thinking the same thing. Composting isn't about perfection. It's about connection to the earth, to yourself, and to the generations coming after us. Whether you're stirring a bucket on your porch, keeping worms under the sink, or just dropping off your scraps at a community bin, every little act adds up. You're nourishing more than soil. You're feeding life, growth, and legacy. As we close, picture this: a grandma planting herbs beside her windowsill, Grandpa Lee laughing as he shows his grandkids a tomato plant, friends sharing compost tips over coffee, their hands dirty, their hearts full. This is what composting looks like. Not complicated, not perfect, just beautifully human. You're never too old. You're never too late. You're always just one peel away from starting. Like this video to help others find it. Comment below with your composting method or memory. Subscribe to the Evergreen Seniors for more heartwarming, helpful tips that keep you growing. We're in this together, one banana peel, one smile, one story at a time.